This video is for you if you tend to get stuck in limerence, in fantasy addiction, and you have trouble manifesting the things you want in reality. I'm going to be explaining exactly why we get drawn into limerence and fantasy addiction, what addiction really is on the human and metaphysical levels, and exactly what you can do and where you can place your focus to begin the process of getting out of these traps. My name is Adam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Before we get started for today, I just want to let you know I'm doing some free breakthrough calls. What's a breakthrough call? So a breakthrough call is a 30-minute call where we get on Zoom. I go over your vision for your life for you. So it's like what you're looking to create, what you want to do. And then we get into like what's been stopping you. Like why aren't you creating these things? Why aren't you taking the action? What blocks have been coming up? And then I help you troubleshoot some options so that you can begin to resolve these things and really step forth into your highest vision and passion. Okay. So limerence, fantasy addiction, all forms of addiction, and the inability to manifest are all intricately connected. And before I get into sort of like the underpinnings of these things and the meanings and the origins, I'm going to tell a little bit about my story with this. I spent most of my life lost in fantasy. I was always a very sort of creative kid. I had a real difficult time bringing my imagination in front of people, even though I was a performer. But I had a very powerful imagination. The problem with the imagination is how did I use it? You can use it to be this brilliant creator. You can use it to be an artist. You can use it to change yourself in the world, or you can escape into it. It's like money. It's not the imagination's fault. It's what you do with it. It's like anything, right? So because I was so freaking sensitive and psychic, had a tendency to withdraw into my imagination and kind of hide out there. Now, for anyone who's having trouble manifesting, but is really good at like feeling stuff, you might want to check into this, because one of the biggest things with manifesting is so many people get lost in the fantasy visualization part, because that's the easy part. The hard part is the stuff you have to do on the human level to actually create the things. Okay, so this was a very strong go-to for me. And when I got into my teenage years, I began to do drugs because I couldn't feel the way I wanted to feel in the reality. And the primary wound here, and this is the primary wound around addiction, is connection. And that's not just connection outward, it's connection inward and outward. We get addicted to things because of the feeling that we get from those things. And it could be anything. It could be a drug, it could be heroin like it was for me, it could be, dreaming about like the lover that I wanted, which was also for me. But if we're too afraid to go through whatever pain or fear that is involved in actually connecting on a human level, these things become major vices. I remember, I'm in the astrology that resonates, I'm a Leo North Node. And when I saw the description in the write-up of a Leo North Node, I went, oh my God, that's exactly me. So the Leo North Node has this struggle between wanting to be the center of attention and to be in the spotlight and being scared shitless of it at the same time. And this is how I always was. As a kid, I would fantasize, and even to this day sometimes, I would fantasize about being a performer, about performing music, about performing comedy, thinking about like being asked to perform in front of people. And then like an hour later, I go to a party and people would be like, hey, will you play your guitar for us? And I'd be like, no. And I refused because I was so afraid of actually putting myself out there. And then I would leave, go home, sit down the whole time fantasizing about what would have happened if I'd actually played. It's kind of sad, no judgment, but it is, because there is this fear of what? Being rejected, making mistakes, all of it is centered around love and kind of being ostracized from the tribe. And again, this relates to if you're limerent on a person, if you get stuck in your fantasies, if you get stuck doing drugs, None of the visualization or fantasy or imagination pieces are in and of themselves negative, but they can be if you're dissociating. Okay, so what do we really want from addiction? What are we looking for, and why do we get addicted to anything? Well, there's two parts that are connected. One is there's an emptiness within us. It's a spirit-like hole, right? And it's very hard as humans to feel connected to a higher power because of all the programming in our world, all the trauma, etc. But it starts metaphysically with a hole inside of ourselves where we don't feel good enough or loved as we are. So what we're looking for first is that connection to spirit. And how does that manifest as humans? Well, in social connection, in bonding, in community. I saw this, I think it was just an Instagram post. This guy was talking about how there was an experiment done on mice a while back, I don't know when. But if a mouse or a rat, whatever, was put in a cage by itself and was given one regular bottle of water and a bottle of water drugged with morphine, over time they would all choose the morphine, and they keep drinking the morphine, drinking the morphine, drinking the morphine until they overdosed and died. But if they were put in a larger cage, like with a bunch of other rats in a sort of park social setting, and then they were given those two different water bottles, they all chose the one without the morphine because they had the connection. So what happens in trauma is we get that connection severed because our parents weren't there, or we were abused, or we didn't feel loved, we didn't feel valued, we didn't feel important. This could have been real, it could have been imagined, it doesn't matter. It could have been inherited from our ancestors, it doesn't matter. The wounds are all the same. It's that lack of love internally, externally, and the expression of it. So it's important to understand, if you get lost in limerence, fantasy, drugs, whatever, this is what you're looking for. And what we do is, because we're afraid to embody it, because we're afraid to maybe go to a party and talk to people, we will continue to create the feeling in our mind. And this is where, I don't say manifestation is dangerous, but this is where so many people get stuck, and then they wonder why they can't manifest stuff. Because reality is created from the imagination, yes, but it's created from the embodiment and the integration of the imagination. And the easy part is the feeling of it. The hard part is actually being that person and engaging in the activities in a healthy way and doing the healing necessary to actually create those things. I've recently realized that the only reason the things I've wanted have not come into my life is only because I'm afraid to really allow them, because I'm afraid of social connection. And we're all programmed this way. We're not good enough as people. We're not good enough as ourselves. It's not right to be your authentic self. There's judgment on sex, on how we speak, on how we act, on everything. Everywhere we go, there's judgment. And this message that you're not worthy or deserving of love, whether it comes from religion or atheistic science or whatever it is. Or therapists who were taught to be a proxy and sit there with their legs crossed looking down on you like you're some dumb piece of shit, that they need to determine whether or not it's okay for you to integrate back into society, and there's no connection or heart-centered connection there, so you don't feel safe, so you can't heal. The whole world has been structured that way. But the way that we get out of this is, one, to embrace your imagination, because it's a gift. You don't want to demonize your imagination. You don't even want to demonize drugs. I mean, if you're a heroin addict, you're a crackhead, like, yeah, get sober, but you don't necessarily want to be like, oh, I'm so bad because I did drugs. It's no, you were actually looking for something valuable in them. It just wasn't the exact right means of treating yourself. There's nothing really wrong with you except that you want connection. So in order to start to create this, it's really important to get really honest with yourself about how you truly feel in your nervous system when it comes to connecting to something higher than you and connecting to other people. Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel shy? Do you feel judged? Do you hide? Do you isolate? These are all trauma response patterns from fears of judgment, criticism, condemnation, and residual patterns from our past where we were abused or traumatized. But if you're not able to manifest stuff, like put yourself in the actual situation of what it is that you want to have. If you want to be a speaker, how do you feel when you're actually on stage speaking? Because if you're super nervous, you can be nervous and still manifest it, but if you're so nervous you can't do it or you avoid doing it, the visualization doesn't really matter that much. You need to take the action steps to walk through the fear. But it's always a combination of both. You always want to do a combination of taking the action that you're uncomfortable with and then stepping back and using your imagination to create new patterns. So it's a matter of like visualizing yourself on stage, feeling comfortable, visualizing and feeling what it would feel like to be around people and to be comfortable, and then to go do it and to notice the difference. How uncomfortable do you get when you go and do it? Walk through the fear and it starts to heal. Also, go back in time, work with your body, work with your belief systems, find out where the beliefs that you're not worthy and that you can't connect or it's not safe come from, and work through them too. It's like bouncing back and forth between topics or polarities until you start to harmonize in the middle, and you can really embody your imagination and utilize it to create your reality and your life, whilst also understanding that a lot of times our fantasy versions of things feel so good that it's not going to always feel that way in reality. And so there's this element of like, this isn't what I asked for, or disappointment, or crashed out expectation that will happen for a while until you really start to build in your body the facility and the container to truly connect. And it's good to just know that's what you're looking for. That's what we're all looking for. That's all anyone's looking for, is love and connection. You don't give a shit about a car. You don't give a shit about a certain kind of house. I mean, on some level you do. Like, it's important to have material things. It's very important to have them. But what you want is the feeling of safety, of love, of joy, and of peace. And you get that more than anything from connection, social interaction, and connecting to something greater than yourself, whatever you believe that to be. So let me know what you think in the comments section. Let me know if you have any revelations or breakthroughs. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate everybody who supports my channel. Other than that, I have a free energy clearing in the description below that you can download if you want. And until next time.